Hello, everyone, and welcome to Northern Kentucky Sports Legends, in conjunction with the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. I'm Charlie Coleman, and as always, I'm joined by the president of the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, Joe Brennan.
Yeah, we're honored today to have Jason Dudas as our guest. Jason has worked for TBNK for 25 years, and I've been the president of the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. It'll be 20 years this January. And Jason has been here involved with us. He's been a big part of our Sports Hall of Fame. Not only does he give interviews and let me and Charlie come in here and interview our Hall of Fame members and guests and have permanent records with the Barringer Crawford Museum. He also does all of our family reunions. The TBNK does all of this, and it's always a pleasure working with him. Jason, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Give us a little bit of background. And one thing I told you, let you cheat and told you one question I was going to ask. What's it feel like to be on this side of the camera?
It is weird. It's a weird feeling. I'm normally behind the scenes on the other side of the curtain, or I'm the one who's coordinating the coverage. And so, yeah, it's odd to be out here in front of the camera.
Well, certainly deserving of being on this show, and I'll echo Joe's thoughts. We appreciate what you've done for sports in Northern Kentucky. But let's talk about you. Give us a little bit of background. Are you from Northern Kentucky? Where'd you go to high school?
No, I'm not from Northern Kentucky. A little bit of a vagabond. I was born in Cleveland. My family moved to Tucson, Arizona when I was 2 years old. So I basically grew up in Tucson. My formative years were in Tucson. When I was 14, we moved back to Ohio, to Central Ohio. And I went to high school at a place called Amanda Clear Creek, which was a powerhouse in football at the time. I was not on the team. My sport was soccer growing up, and that was more because I grew up more West Coast. And so in the 70s and early 80s, soccer was everything.
Yeah, it probably hadn't really got to the Midwest that much at that point.
And that was an eye-opener for me because at the age of 14, moved back to near Lancaster, Ohio, just south of Columbus, and I find out there's no soccer team for the high school. There's no league teams that are my age group.
Yeah.
And so I had no choice but to get involved on the other side of things. I became an assistant coach for Little League, and then coached Little League soccer, and then eventually refereed Little League soccer.
Wow, interesting. Just a little bit about TBNK. Tell the viewers just as brief as you can, because we want to concentrate on you, but a little background. What is TBNK? How, funding and how it operates? There's a board and so on.
So TBNK stands for the Telecommunications Board of Northern Kentucky. We cover, it's kind of a misnomer name, we really only cover Kenton County.
Yeah.
And we have cohorts in Campbell County who do a very similar operation to us. They're good allies of ours. So TBNK represents the member cities in Kenton County in their negotiations and representation with the cable companies. So you have Spectrum and Alta Fiber right now.
Formerly Cincinnati Bell.
Correct, correct. And we still call them Bell, when we're not in front of people.
Yeah.
But basically when a city is represented by TBNK, they don't have to really do anything with a cable company. TBNK represents all of their interests, and that includes what's called franchising. So when the cable company and the city sign a contract with each other, TBNK handles all that representation and enforcement of that franchise. We also handle all of the public and government access, and those are the TV channels that your shows are on. So we have a public side that does a lot of this kind of stuff, and a government side that does city council coverage, community meetings, county commission meetings, that special events like parade coverage or concerts, that kind of thing. And then we have a whole arm that does high school sports as well.
How did Jason get interested in media?
So I was always interested in media in high school. I thought I was more in the journalism side of things. I thought I'd be more of a writer because I can write decently. But I also enjoyed audio production. I wound up getting an audio degree from Ohio University and got out of school.
So you're a Bobcat.
I'm a Bobcat, a proud Bobcat. But once I wound up out in the field, there was just no jobs in the early 90s in radio. Radio was shrinking, not growing. And I had some TV experience in college, and I enjoyed it. So I decided to go back to school and decided to work on a master's degree, but primarily just to get into television. And so I really enjoyed television. It's more of a team sport, so to speak, than radio is kind of a solo gig. And so I really enjoyed the team approach. And that led to my moving to Los Angeles for a while. I did the Hollywood thing for about 6 months and did not like it one bit. I went in there with, rose-colored glasses and thought it would be great, and I hated it. I have some great stories, and I met some great people, but after 6 months, I knew it was not for me. I came back. I had been working at a local TV station in Athens while I was in grad school. I really enjoyed that work. I felt like working at the local level, I could make a difference. And I went back to the same station, worked there for 2 years before I came here. And TBNK was definitely a step up in size of facility, size of staff, size of coverage from the place I had been. So going to TBNK was like going to the big leagues for me.
So you go from Ohio to Tucson, back to Ohio, Central Ohio, Athens. What got you to Northern Kentucky?
A friend from college,
Okay.
who had come here and was really instrumental in a guy named David Schmidt, who worked with the early folks like Dick Murgatroyd, who helped start this center. And he actually tried to lure me down about 6 months before I actually came. He called me up and said, hey, why don't you come down here to TBNK and let's do some cool stuff. And I said, I'm not ready to leave Athens yet. And I kind of talked.
That's a party town there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a fun time. Yeah.
That,
you don't want to leave.
You're a young guy.
But then about 6 months later, I called him up and I said, hey, so about that job. And he's like, you jerk, it's already been filled. So, but he was able to work out some magic, and they opened a job. I applied, I got it. And that was 25 years ago. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah, here you are. Well, I'm getting a signal from your colleague there. And so we're going to have to take our first break, but stay tuned. Northern Kentucky, we'll be right back.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Welcome back, Northern Kentucky, as we continue with Jason Dudas. And Joe, I think you're going to reminisce a little bit with Jason.
Yeah, Jason, we'd like to bring up some of the stuff that you helped us accomplish. We started the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame TV shows, Sports Legends, with Charlie and myself. And our first episode that we did was with Senator Jim Bunning, a professional baseball player and senators and et cetera. And the reason we started doing these shows, when we asked you if we could do them, was that we'd like to get the history of these people while they're alive in their own words, and get a half-hour interview with them so they could tell their story like we're doing with you today, and you get the true facts from them, not hearsay from somebody else, and you got a permanent record of that. So as of today, we've got about 80 people that we've done this with. I'll just read you some of the few names here. Senator Jim Bunning, he was the first one. Tom Thacker and James Brock. Tom Thacker is still living, but he's pretty sick right now. But he is the only player in basketball that's ever won 3 national championships in 3 different leagues.
Wow.
So, and there's nobody, the only one in the history.
Yeah.
At the NBA, at ABA, and all of them. He's the
And
only
the
one that's done
NCAA.
that. And the NCAA, plus
yeah.
he's won the NCAA championship there. Tom Browning, which he's just deceased. We've got a lot of stuff on him. Pat Scott, she was on a league of her own. I was a pitcher for them. We've done her. Owen Houck, Reynolds Flynn from Covington Homes. Who else we got there? Dick Maley's LSU from LSU and Cincinnati Royals. Local guy from Covington Catholic. Dale Mueller from Highlands. Everybody around here knows his records and what he's done with football. Walt Wary, he was another great ball player. It goes on. Jim Claypool. It goes all the way down the list. Terry Bowman or Denny Bowman was a mayor of Covington and played ball and everything. He's been on our board of directors for years. And we come all the way down. We got Charlie Coleman, Dale McMillan. He was a sports announcer and did great stuff here in Northern Kentucky. And we come all the way down to Jane Myers. She was one of the last two that we've done, besides you. And gym manager, H.B. Deathridge. He's the Kentucky Veterans Hall of Fame. The list goes on and on. But these are 80 people that we've got their full life history. And not only do we have it in our files and history, you showed people on your TV stations for a couple of weeks at a time. But it's also a permanent record at the Barringer Crawford Museum. So out of all of these people, who do you think you'd like the best?
Well, I think
Your favorite.
And I'm gonna say I have two favorites. Pat Scott was really one of my favorites. Really neat lady. I was really mesmerized by her interview, and then I was lucky enough to cover her at an event a couple years later and hear a few more stories. But she was a neat lady, and I don't know if I told you guys at the time, because I don't know if I knew at the time, but one of our part-timers that I inherited here when I started at TBNK was her great niece, Sasha Cochran, who used to be at ICN6.
Oh yeah, that was her great niece.
That was her
I
great
didn't
niece.
know that.
Yeah,
I worked with
so
Sasha.
Sasha and I are still good buddies, and
Yeah.
we talk about Pat here and there. So that was a neat
Yeah.
connection. And then, of course, all of our buddies, Andy Furman is another favorite. Andy's a good friend of ours here at TBNK, a friend of mine, and it's been great getting to know him. So I really enjoyed his interview.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Thomas More. This organization's TBNK, and Thomas Moore's had a great working agreement. Tell us about that.
Yeah, when I started here, one of the first things that I noticed was going on was a kind of a dual approach with Thomas More Sports. Holmes High School used to produce a show out of their studio called the Thomas More Report, which is basically a Thomas More coaches show. That would be a new episode every week or two. And they produced it there at their studio. They eventually moved it here to this studio, produced it out of here. A guy named John Azalon was the host. You probably have heard of John, Johnny A. He
It's
still
baseball.
Does, yeah, still does a
Baseball.
lot of stuff
Yeah.
at NKU, announcing there. Good friend of ours. At the same time, Ted Busheman, kind of the local king of all, down and dirty media. Ted got it done. And Ted was a longtime PR director at the airport, but he had a long history in television, particularly in sports. And he ran a group called All Volunteer Cable One that was based out of the Boone County area, but did a lot of Thomas More coverage. And they had their own control room at Thomas More and worked with Thomas More to cover their sports at really no cost to Thomas More. It was just a labor of love for Ted. And so Ted kept things going for many years. Ted passed away, I believe, in '09. And at the time, Cable One came to us, because we were airing all of that programming. Ted would produce it all and air it through us. And we were glad to have it, thrilled to have it. So All Volunteer Cable One came to us and said, we don't want to stop, but we need somebody to do the job that Ted was doing. And in no way did we think we could fill Ted's shoes, because Ted was literally a legend. But we did our best, and for 10 years, we helped keep Thomas More Sports on the air. And we really enjoyed it. It finally came to a situation where they had to do their own webcasting due to some contractual agreements with their league. And so it came down to kind of a who's going to be covering this, and it was decided that Thomas More would do their own coverage going forward a few years ago. But they do more coverage now than we ever did with them, than Ted ever did with them. We get more Thomas More Sports on our channels than we've ever had before. And so we're thrilled with that. We do miss producing it. I hear from our part-timers all the time, man, I miss doing Thomas More Sports. And we agree. But it's been a great relationship over the years.
In your career, is there a favorite game that you've produced?
There's
or a
probably
favorite athlete?
Yeah, there's
coach?
probably a few favorite games, kind of like
Yeah.
depending upon the effort. I do a lot of sports freelance as well, and so I was honored to direct a game for Fox College Sports a few years ago down in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Okay.
It was an NAIA playoff game, and it was. They said, will you direct? I had done a lot of high school directing, a little bit of college. I had never done a game that high, and I found out the day of, I thought we were going to be a regional broadcast, and I was super excited as a director to be directing regional broadcast. I found out about 3 hours beforehand we'd been bumped up to national broadcast, and I was nervous and sweating, but I had a great crew of which I knew several of the guys already, and I just turned to them and said, "You do what you do, and I'll follow your lead, and we'll make this work." And it was a great game.
Good leadership.
Well, when you know you got a good crew, follow their lead.
And
it was one of those games where you had, super exciting ending, and it's just it's still my demo reel. I still love that game. So that was my favorite game that I got to direct. Thomas More game. There was a game where the girls team was almost down and out in the playoffs. Their star player was on crutches, and they won the last minute. And she came out to the middle of the court and threw her crutches down, and they all got together. That was a really neat moment. High school wise, there's so many moments, but we did put together during COVID, Beechwood High School, they won the state championship in 2020 on a year that had many unique challenges for every team, especially for Beechwood. And they managed to take it all the way and win, and it was really a bright spot in that first year of COVID. And so we did a documentary on that, and that came together beautifully. And we interviewed the mayor of Fort Mitchell, and we interviewed the coach, Noel Rash, who just recently retired, and some of the players, and we had a really neat documentary put together, and it won some awards, and that was a really neat experience too.
Good. Well, once again, I'm getting a signal for a break, so it goes fast, doesn't it?
It does. It's a lot faster on this side.
Yes, it does. So we'll be right back, Northern Kentucky. Stay tuned.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
And welcome back once again as we continue our show with Jason Dudas at TBNK. And instead of kicking it to Joe, I'm going to kick it to you. I think you have an announcement to make to Northern Kentucky.
Well, I do. I guess I'll make it to you guys. A lot of people know already. I am retiring effective next week from TBNK, 25 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to be somewhere like this for so long. It's very rare in the media, especially in the TV business, to be anywhere this long. And it's been 25 great years. So it's bittersweet to leave, but there are times when you have other things to do, and that time has arrived.
Well, you had mentioned off camera, you want to complete your master's degree, I think you said.
I do.
That's important in your life's growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's something I started when I was going back to school to try to get television experience. I went back for a master's. Quite honestly, at the time, I didn't really care much about the degree. It was more the means to an end to get into television. And I ran off to Hollywood, the storybook thing, and left with just a final project to go. And I came back and didn't finish it. Worked across the street from the university for 2 years and didn't bother to finish it. But as years went on, I wished I had, and it's one of those things in life you want to finish. Also, my brother is a professor at UConn, and so I've seen what his life is like, and it's not so bad. Yeah. So I would like to go back and finish the master's as part of this retirement, and hopefully adjunct professor in media at Ohio University.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be some lucky students in the future.
Let's hope.
Joe?
Yeah, Jason, that's another reason we want to get this history in today from you while you're here. We would like to get back, I know a lot of us with the local newspapers shutting down the last 5 to 10 years or whatever, it's hard to get any kind of sports coverage at all in smaller cities like Northern Kentucky and that. And we depend on TBNK stations, the job you guys do here. You do a great job. But you cover all the high school basketball, football, Thomas More games on TV and everything. How long have you been covering the high school sports?
So we've been doing high school sports about 23 years. When I first got here, I knew that high school sports was something that I wanted to kind of play around with. I hadn't done it at all in college. I had opportunities and just didn't take advantage of them. And so when I first got here, after about a year of being here, put my toe in the water, we did a Thomas More baseball doubleheader just to see how it went. And it went pretty well. But we didn't really have any big aspirations of doing more than just the occasional event. Then Tim Broering, our executive director for many years now, came on board, and one of the first things he said to me was, "Why don't you have a sports department?" And I said, I don't know why we don't. I would like to. That sounds great. So he really empowered us to go forward, put together a schedule, cover a game of the week, in the case of football, or in the case of basketball, 2 games of the week. And he helped us get a truck, a discharged tank bus for $1 from the county. We put a bunch of gear in it and started covering games. Tim definitely had a vision for sports that we just could not see yet. We were not experienced enough to see what he was envisioning. And it brought so much to this job, so much to this place. And I think a lot to do with my longevity has been my enjoyment of covering high school sports. It's one of those things, again, where I left Hollywood because I didn't feel like I was just a cog in a wheel, that nobody cared and I didn't care. But at this level, when you cover somebody making the winning touchdown, maybe somebody who's never going to go on to a college career or the pros, and so 20 years from now when they're showing their son or their daughter, look at dad scoring the winning touchdown, and they're showing the TBNK sports coverage, that makes a difference. And so I really enjoy having been part of that.
Jason, you have made a difference in Northern Kentucky, and especially in sports. And Joe will echo that. And I think you have a few more things to talk to Jason about.
Yeah,
Joe?
Jason, just again, like to thank you for everything you've done for our Sports Hall of Fame and through our exhibits at the Barringer Crawford Museum and that. And I'd also like to point out, we've got them here now. You used to produce DVDs of all of our interviews, and now you got them on these thumb drive things and that. But just what you were talking about before, every person, these over 80 people we've interviewed, they take one of these home or DVD home, and their family's got it for their whole family history of what they've done in sports and why they're in here honoring, and they're getting it from the horse's mouth. And without you and Tim, this would never be possible.
Well,
And we can't thank you enough for that.
Well, and you guys have helped make this part of the job so much fun and so rewarding. So.
Jason, let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about local programming. The Cincinnati area, as you know, is I'm going to say an incubator of local programming. You don't remember, but our viewers remember Ruth Lyons and Paul Dixon and Uncle Al and all these local shows. This is the only way we can get local programming now, is through TBNK and our local cable here.
It's basically true. I mean, it really would, unless you're looking for news, then it's hard to find the shows that used to be around.
Yeah.
Even the cable company, which was strong in doing shows here for many years, doesn't do them anymore. Yeah. And so we do feel a responsibility to our viewers and to our member cities that's a baton we carry. We carry it proudly.
And great viewership. I mean, to this day, I think that Sports Legends show ended in 2010. So it tells you how long it's been. And still people say, hey, I miss seeing those Sports Legends and hearing you talk to them. So people do like it, and people do watch it.
They do.
And it's something we've been missing, but if it's not for you and Tim and so on, we wouldn't have it at all.
One of our favorite phrases around here these days is, if you can't find us, you're not looking very hard. Because it used to be, not that long ago, just a few years ago, we were just cable channels on a couple of cable systems. But now, almost all of that programming, and certainly all of our sports and staff programming and all that kind of programming, is available on Facebook. It's available on Roku, our Roku channels. It's on our tbnk.org, TBNK to go video on demand site. So there's so many ways to watch us that if you say you can't find us, you're just not trying to find us. We're literally worldwide and have been for a few years now.
This very show that we're doing right now,
Right.
someone in 2 years from now, 5 years from now, can come back and
Absolutely.
watch this. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure you probably will. You'll be showing it.
Well, and before, when we were on cable only, you could only watch what we were programming to you. Now you can go and you can watch whatever you want to watch on demand. And there's been so many technology changes in the 25 years I've been here.
I can't
it
imagine.
makes my head spin,
Yeah.
literally. And so it's, like Joe said, from DVDs to going to thumb drives. When I started, we were handing things out on VHS tape. So it,
Yeah.
One last question that this leads into this. Where do you see media 5 years from now, 10 years down the road? And specifically TBNK?
I think it's going to continue on the path it's on, where streaming is just going to get more and more important. I think there'll still be cable around. I think cable is kind of leveling off on those who are cutting cable. It's people are finding that it's a lot nicer to know where all your channels are than have to search all over through every streaming service in the world to try to find the thing you're trying to find. So the aggregate engine that is cable is, I think, starting to stabilize. I think you're just going to see more and more and more efforts to get streaming programming in front of the eyeballs of people. Like, where are they watching? Right now, Facebook is a really, really popular way to get our stuff out. Our cities are very tied to Facebook. Will it be that way in 5 years? I don't know. Maybe it'll be another social media engine that'll be more important at that point. But I think that's the wave that they're going to have to ride here, is that constantly evolving technology wave.
Be interesting 5 years from now. You can come back and look at this and see how accurate you probably will be, no doubt in my mind. But on behalf of the Sports Hall of Fame, I should let our president do it, but and I know he will, but personally, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for Northern Kentucky, for our area, for the Sports Hall of Fame, and sports in general.
Yeah, and I second that, and I'd also like to thank Tim Broering for all he's done for us and that. And our Hall of Fame wouldn't be as successful without the publicity and recordings and on TV and everything that your service provided to us, and we can't thank you enough.
No.
And it's been a pleasure knowing you as a human being and as a man, and you do a great job.
I
Thank
feel
you.
the same way. I appreciate you guys a ton.
Yeah.
So.
And there you are, Northern Kentucky. We're losing a legend in Jason, but thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate you a lot.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was.